Thanks, Chair, and thanks for facilitating the meeting along with the other TDs and to Deputy Carty and myself when we put in the request. I want to thank you for doing this. First of all, I want to welcome the different farming organisations. A few questions for you. Are we united as farming organisations that it's a worrying development that we are now seeing for the first time in 20-25 years that you have a different sort of meaning for both mineral soils and peaty soils when farmers will be doing their single farm payment or for eligibility? Are ye concerned about that? And are ye all, and I want to hear this clearly, are ye all opposed to this? And are ye all at one in making it clear to the Minister you will not accept this on behalf of farmers? Are ye agreed as one that derogations, no more than what we've seen, we saw it with turf years ago, one that never existed. We saw it with water when the debacle was on about water. We have seen about 10 different derogations to a member state, because bear in mind, this is not to a farmer. This is to the member state. And as things go down the road, and bear in mind one thing, guys, that if you look at the document, and there's an EC document that I have in my possession. I actually had a meeting with the INFHL last week. I gave Colin a copy of it there. But there's a document that states that, and it's pillar 2 is where I can see a lot of farmers getting sucked in. You'll have to do X, Y, and Z, be it under an environmental scheme or under eco schemes or whatever. And you'll go down that road, but there'll be no going back to having that land as eligible for single farm payment. So then this so-called other system will kick in called this derogation. And the department will contradict that it's a derogation, but I have the document in my possession that it is a derogation. Are ye concerned that from, to be honest about it, from Donegal right down to Kerry, out Cavan Monaghan, Westmeath, parts of Wicklow, parts of where Michael Collins is from down in Cork, that there's huge areas, Tipperary where our chairman is from, that there's huge areas of the country that will be under pressure under this new system. And to reference Tim Lumbert, he was on about the payment system. And look at, I think the first thing we need to do is get this sorted, because this is the part of CAP that if farmers go outside the system in the derogation, they will end up down the road. And bear in mind, we won't be probably Tim or Colin or all the guys involved in the farming organisations will have gone on. And we'll have gone on. But in 10 years' time, a derogation is renewed. In 10 years' time or 15 years' time, you'll see the member state. We saw what has happened in the animal medicines remedies thing. We saw what Ireland had and what Ireland said to do, and now we're caught in a snare. Are ye all at one in saying we are not accepting this, that a farmer, be it in Donegal or below in the Golden Vale or in Meath, will be treated as one applying for their single farm payment, that this new system of basically the derogation under GAEC will not be accepted? Because guys, to be honest about it, we can talk about and have the debate. I would argue with Tim Lumbert that for the last 25 years, the farmers in the West and Northwest had there was an economic effect on them from the lack of money they were getting. And that could be said right around the country, but they definitely were down the ladder a bit. But this is a bigger picture. And I would worry, and does any of ye think that if this land is taken out of, we'll say, the main single farm payment criteria or qualification, that down the road it's going to jump into Eamon Ryan's area of, when you look at the biodiversity, and I think we have to be looking at all of this together. Ireland has signed up now the 2030 biodiversity strategy, which will have 30% of the country designated. That's what we've committed to. This is what Malcolm Noonan has committed to. And 10% of that will be an area that you won't even put your foot on. Now, with the best will in the world, we can look at for as much state land as possible, but that'll be gone by the wayside. But if we take this land out at the moment in the bigger picture and have it that it's not eligible under the normal cap, but look at there's a derogation there, and down the road under the biodiversity strategy, because I'll ask the question from any of ye, and I'll be asking it from the department. If I let my land go that I saw a reference on this document in Europe that a farmer that won't be allowed to open their drain, a farmer that won't be allowed to do certain works on their land. Where are we going on marginal land if we cannot clean a drain and do things like that? And I am asking, where are we at one in the farming organisations, every one of them, to refute this coming in, and it's a minister that can make the decision and get this out. Thank you.
Chairman, and to go straight there to Deputy Fitzmaurice, like, we are very, very clear, and I couldn't agree more. If you go down the derogation road, like, it's a slippery slope, and you know, we've seen, and Deputy Naughton has referenced there the nitrous derogation, where you know, where you have to go back year after year and reapply for derogation. So I am very, very clear, like, in these high carbon rich soils, very, very clear, we cannot have one system for one type of farm and another system for the other. And in fairness, Deputy Naughton, you're right, we fought, and I remember working with yourself back in 2004, 2005 on the nitrates, and we didn't go for zones. We went for the country and the entire of the country, and that's a very clear position here. That's where we're saying, and so we will fight that to the bitter end. And a clear message here for the Minister is you cannot be dividing up the country. The same agricultural practice has to follow through. Deputy Brown, the divergence to support and income, you know, or for taking farmers' income to support environmental measures. Like, if we look at it, we stated earlier on this morning, like, take the dry stock sector, anything from 130 to 160% of their income is coming from direct payments. And like, we're being asked to do an eco scheme, and it's going to impact on anything from 20 to 30% of a farmer's direct payment. The Pillar 1 payment that was put in place to compensate farmers for producing cheap food. And we're 9 months out from signing off on this, and we haven't a clue from the department, from the Minister, what we have to do. So absolutely, we have no problem working with the environment. We have been already for years playing our part, and we are the ones, the actors in the change, that will play our part in the future on climate change. But we need fair play in this, and I leave it at that, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McCormack.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Cahill, and I suppose the Deputy Fitzmaurice's question first. Stephanie, you know, we feel that if land is being farmed, it should be eligible irrespective of soil type. A derogation of any form, whether it's nitrates or in any other way, creates uncertainty, creates bureaucracy, and over a period of time, we've seen it with the nitrates derogation, the bear rises, and that's similar comment for Deputy Naughton. As regards Deputy Brown, you know, and the EU supply chain malfunctioning or not functioning correctly, it's our view, and that is as representatives of the primary producer who's receiving a price that they received 35 years ago. And we see all other sectors along the food supply chain increase or maintain their margin, while the primary producer's margin is eroded. And obviously you alluded to the Bellevue plant, and look, we would have met the Taoiseach last week on that particular issue, and the Minister for Agriculture. You know, it's put the industry, and in particular that processing unit or processing entity, at a crossroads, a juncture that it hadn't expected to find itself at. And it's the potential consequences of that could be widespread across the country. but equally the potential consequences of it could be drastic across rural Ireland, because, you know, we've seen a vibrancy since the abolition of quotas that wasn't felt in rural Ireland for a significant period of time, where young people and people from other sectors are transferring across to dairy, and you know, that could all be put to an end very, very easily. So that's something that needs to be watched, Deputy Brown, with a huge degree of closeness in the coming period of time.
Okay. I think I saw Mr. Punch on the line there a few minutes ago. We tried to catch you there before, Mr. Punch, so if you want to contribute there now, Eddie.
His internet is very poor.
We can't seem to get him there, Dermot, so
no.
if you want to contribute.
Okay, just, well, first thing I suppose to answer Michael Fitzmaurice. In my whole based on where he came from. There would be crag, mountain, woodland, badland, limestone, river bank, upland or lowland. That's what he was born and reared, and that's all they have. And this was my argument about this. We went on with this ineligibility and marginal land. Marginal land is land if over 100 or if over 50 or 60 acres of good land and over corner or marginal land. If you were born in a place down in West Cork or down in South Kerry or Ballykinneal or somewhere, and you were born into 60, 70 acres of marginal land, that's all you have. So you can't call it marginal land, that's all you have. I have spent my life fighting for that principle, and especially the more biodiverse land is now, the more eligible it should be. You want biodiversity, you want habitats, and then you will add drawing red circles trying to make it ineligible. I mean, one hand must know what the other hand is doing, and I totally agree with Michael Fitzmaurice. No farmer should be discriminated against based on where he came from or what land he was born into. And as for the different farming practices and the same farming practice all over the country, that's not actually correct either, because a farmer with 200 or 300 acres in County Meath or in the Golden Vale gave away different farming practices. Some fellow with 100 acres in top of a mountain in west around Dingle or back around West Cork or somewhere, and he's trying to escape up between rocks and bushes. And the department manager tried to tell him, sorry, you can't, it's not eligible anymore. You know, where there was young fellas had the same amount of stock as their father and their grandfather, and now they were told their land is ineligible. So this is totally wrong, and the more biodiverse it is, the more eligible it should be. Thanks.
Okay.
Good
just a representative from the INHFA, and we'll finish the session then.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just to come back in there, well, I can assure Deputy Fitzmaurice that we are certainly against differentiating the land. And I was surprised when I got a communication from Deputy Fitzmaurice that the Commission are referring to this, the Council's proposed GAIAC 2 derogation to ineligible hectare standard rules. So, like, the Commission are referring to this derogation at this stage, and the Minister will be saying that the Council's position of minimum protection is better than the Parliament's effective protection and appropriate protection by the Commission. But anywhere where the word protection is mentioned in relation to a GAIAC, smells like a designation to me. And, you know, farmers will have to comply with GAIACs, standards of GAIACs, in order to get their basic income support for sustainability, to get their first year of a payment. And if this is onerous, this will leave farmers in a difficult position to build a payment in environmental measures or indeed in the eco scheme. So I know Henry had wanted to come back in on a quick point, if that's okay, Chairman, and I leave it at that.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, just to finish off, well, it's quite heartening to hear the widespread support that we have for the fact that we don't want more derogations, and they're ineffective, as been evidenced in many areas. The whole area of GAEC2, I suppose the question has to be asked, what do we want? Like, if you look at the Department of Agriculture statement to the Oireachtas today, while we must await the final text before we can finalise any management requirements under GAEC2. Now, to be honest, reading that, my interpretation would look like that the Department of Agriculture and our Minister were actually outside of this process and waiting for a resolution. The reality is we are very much part of the negotiations and discussion here, and we need to step up and we need to get this flawed wording removed. And it's not right that the department are saying that they're awaiting a final text. They can have an input on the final text, and that's what we're asking for, that this flawed amendment, which leads to a derogation and leads to the end of agricultural activity on peat soils, has to be removed. That's what INHFA are asking for here. And again, referring to the department's statement, GAEC2 standard is lumped in along with eco schemes and landscape features and issues under GAEC9. That is not what is in this council amendment. GAEC2 is separated out as an area of the holding. It's not an agricultural area of the holding. This needs to be acted on, and the House needs to ensure that the Minister get that message. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr.